My cousin and her partner moved in with our grandparents and were furious when I declined to babysit their children while they took a break. My grandparents sided with them, so I decided to leave and stopped contributing to their expenses. Fresh out of university with my degree in hand, I found myself back in my childhood home. I'm Emily, 23 years old, and honestly, I hadn't planned on returning to my grandparents' house, but here I was. Thankfully, the job search didn't take long. Within a week, I secured a position at Thompson Advertising with a decent salary and promising bonuses. That evening, over Grandma's famous casserole, I shared my good news. I thought I'd stay for about 3 months, save some cash, and then find my own place. The clinking of forks against plates stopped suddenly. Grandma and Grandpa exchanged one of their looks, the kind that always meant trouble. Moving out? Grandma set down her fork. Emily, you know I can only work part-time at the community center because of my arthritis. Grandpa cleared his throat. Things aren't great at the factory. There have been whispers of layoffs. We could really use your help with the bills, Grandma added softly. And you wouldn't have to pay rent here. It just makes more sense, doesn't it? I stared at my half-finished casserole, feeling trapped. They had a point, sort of, and they were my grandparents after all. I figured I could stay longer. Life fell into a routine after that. I went to work, came home, paid the bills, and Grandma ensured dinner was always ready. It seemed okay manageable even until last weekend when my cousin Lily showed up with her partner Jake and their kids, Mia and Noah. The change in my grandparents was instantaneous, like someone had flipped a switch. "Oh, my sweet darlings," Grandma exclaimed, scooping up 4-year-old Mia while Grandpa hoisted Noah onto his shoulders. "Lily, darling, you look fabulous. How's everything going? Tell us all about your life." I stood in the doorway, watching as my grandparents doted on their eldest granddaughter and her perfect little family, hanging on her every word. Asking for details about the most mundane thing show her garden was doing, what new words Noah had learned, how her book club was progressing. They had never shown that kind of interest in my life, not even when I graduated with honors or received the university's leadership award. "Emily, be a dear and brew some coffee," Grandma called over her shoulder, not even glancing my way as she bounced Noah on her knee. Standing in the kitchen that day, listening to my family's laughter from the living room, I couldn't help but think back to how things had always been. Lily, 7 years my senior, had always been the star of our family show while I was relegated to the role of supporting cast. I remember sitting at the same kitchen table when I was 11, showing Grandma my straight-A report card. She barely glanced at it before returning to her conversation with Lily about college applications. "That's nice, Emily," she'd said absently, waving me away. "Lily, sweetheart, which universities are your top choices?" Those years were all about Lily's high school achievements. Every dinner conversation revolved around her grades, her extracurriculars, her college prep. I'd sit there quietly, eating my peas while Grandma and Grandpa hung on Lily's every word about her AP classes and college tours. Everything changed even more dramatically when Lily got accepted to Crestwood University. I was 11 at the time, and I still remember that dinner conversation like it was yesterday. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," Grandma exclaimed, tears in her eyes. "We'll make it work, won't we, Robert?" Grandpa nodded solemnly. "We'll take out a student loan. Our Lily deserves the best education possible." A week after Lily left for college, they sat me down for a different kind of talk. "Emily," Grandpa said, his voice serious, "we need to tighten our belts for a while. The loan payments and Lily's college expenses are significant. That's when things really changed. While my classmates got new phones every year, I kept my old flip phone until it literally fell apart. When I needed new clothes, we went to thrift stores instead of the mall. Christmas gifts became practical items like socks and school supplies, but they never forgot to send Lily money. "Your sister needs to focus on her studies," Grandma would say as she wrote another check. "We can't let her feel stressed about finances." I learned my lesson early. At 15, I joined every club and academic competition I could find. I stayed up late studying, not just for good grades, but for perfect ones. I wrote essays for scholarship competitions until my hands cramped because I knew there would be no student loans for me. It paid off. I received a full scholarship to State University, and I still remember the look of relief on my grandparents' faces when I told them they wouldn't have to spend a dime on my education. Meanwhile, Lily graduated, got a job in Crestwood, and quickly married Jake, her college sweetheart. Within 2 years, she had Mia, and Noah followed shortly after. My grandparents were over the moon. Their perfect granddaughter had created a perfect family. Now, every monthly visit turned into the same routine. Lily and Jake would show up with the kids, and before I could even say hello properly, Lily would be planning her weekend. "Emily, you'll watch Mia and Noah while we go shopping, right?" she'd say, not really asking. Jake and I hardly get any alone time these days. The first few times I tried to suggest that our grandparents could watch them instead, Grandma would say, "Oh, honey, you know it's hard for me to keep up with young children, and your grandfather needs his rest on weekends." So here I was, spending yet another Saturday watching Frozen for the 100th time with Mia, while Noah tried to color on my bedroom walls. Lily and Jake were off having lunch with friends, and my grandparents were puttering around the garden, occasionally peeking in to ask if I needed anything, as if they were doing me a favor. I tried to console myself with the thought that it was just one weekend a month, just one weekend of being the free, reliable babysitter while everyone else lived their lives. A year passed in this monthly rhythm of babysitting and bills. I had almost gotten used to it almost. Then came the phone call that would turn my already complicated life completely upside down. I was doing dishes after dinner when I heard Grandma's phone ring from the kitchen. I could hear her surprised voice. "Lily, oh sweetheart, don't cry. Tell me what happened." Through sobs, Lily explained that Jake's company had gone bankrupt without warning. They couldn't afford their rent anymore and had no savings. "Could we maybe stay with you for a while?" Lily's voice was so loud through the phone that I could hear it clearly. "Of course you can!" Grandma exclaimed without a moment's hesitation. "We'll make room." My stomach dropped. I stepped forward, clearing my throat. If they're moving in, maybe this would be a good time for me to get my own apartment. You'd think I'd suggested burning down the house. Grandma looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Emily, don't be ridiculous. There's plenty of room for everyone." "But we're family," Grandpa said firmly. "We stick together during hard times." They arrived the following weekend with 3 cars full of belongings. I spent Saturday morning moving my things into what had been our storage room, the smallest bedroom in the house, barely big enough for a twin bed and a dresser. My old room, which was twice the size, became the kids' nursery because the children needed space to play. Mia, now 5, and 3-year-old Noah treated the entire house like their personal playground. They ran up and down the hallways, screaming and laughing, while Lily watched television at full volume or had long, loud phone conversations with her friends about how difficult this transition was for her. "Mia! Noah! Keep it down!" I'd call out when they burst into my room for the 10th time, scattering my work papers everywhere. "They're just playing, Emily," Lily would say dismissively, not even looking up from her phone. "Don't be such a grouch." After work, all I wanted was to relax in my room, maybe read a book or watch something on my laptop. Instead, I got to listen to Baby Shark playing on repeat through the thin walls, punctuated by the constant thump of little feet running back and forth and Lily's loud laughter at whatever show she was watching downstairs. Jake spent his days supposedly job hunting, but mostly I saw him sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone with a worried expression. "The job market's tough right now," he'd say whenever anyone asked, "but I'm sure something will come up soon." I lay in my tiny bed each night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the chaos that had become my home, and wondered how I'd let myself get trapped in this situation. But every time I thought about bringing up moving out again, I remembered my grandparents' reaction and kept quiet. The first utility bill after Lily's family moved in hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the numbers that were almost double what I usually paid. The water bill alone had skyrocketed, not to mention electricity and heating. Looking at my bank account, I realized that my dreams of saving for my own place were quickly evaporating. That evening at dinner, I decided to bring it up. "So, about the utility bills," I started, pushing my food around the plate. "They've doubled since last month. I can't keep covering all the bills by myself anymore. It's taking almost my entire salary." Lily's fork clattered against her plate. "Are you seriously complaining about money right now when Jake and I have lost everything?" "I'm not complaining. I just think we need to figure out a fair way to—" "I can't believe how selfish you're being." Lily's voice rose. "We're going through the hardest time of our lives, and all you care about is money." "Lily's right, Emily." Grandma jumped in. "Family helps family. That's what we do. Grandpa nodded solemnly. Your sister and Jake need our support right now. This isn't the time to be counting pennies. I looked down at my plate, swallowing the words I really wanted to say. Fine, never mind. A week later, Jake finally got a job at a marketing firm. It paid less than his previous position, but at least it was something. I thought maybe things would start getting better. I was wrong. It's so hard being alone with the kids all day. Lily started complaining almost immediately. Jake leaves at 8 and doesn't get back until 6. I never get a break. Then it started small requests at first. Emily, could you watch the kids for an hour while I run to the store? Emily, would you mind keeping an eye on them while I take a shower? Before I knew it, these small favors snowballed into something much bigger. I'd come home from work to find Lily already dressed up to go out. Oh good, you're home, she'd say, grabbing her purse. Jake and I are meeting friends for dinner. Mia and Noah already had their snack, but they'll need dinner in an hour. We'll be back by 10. Weekends became my personal nightmare. Lily and Jake would casually announce their plans on Friday evening: a shopping trip, lunch with friends, a movie date, leaving me with the kids for hours. Grandma and Grandpa conveniently started visiting relatives more often, usually disappearing right after Lily and Jake left. So there I'd be, weekend after weekend, trying to keep Mia from drawing on the walls while Noah had another tantrum because I cut a sandwich the wrong way. I'd spend my Saturdays cleaning up toys, making mac and cheese, and watching endless repeats of children's movies. By Sunday night, I'd be exhausted, my house would be a mess, and I'd still need to cook dinner for everyone. One evening, after a particularly exhausting weekend of childcare, I finally worked up the courage to say something at dinner. I need to talk to you all, I said, setting down my fork. I'm really tired. This situation with the childcare isn't working for me. Lily's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. What do you mean, isn't working? Are you saying you don't want to spend time with your own niece and nephew? Grandma reached over and patted Lily's hand. Don't worry, honey. This is actually good practice for Emily. She needs to know how to handle children when she becomes a mother someday. Think of it as training. And just like that, they went back to their usual dinner conversation, Lily talking about her day, Grandma and Grandpa hanging on her every word, Jake nodding along. I sat there, invisible once again, pushing food around my plate. Nothing changed after that conversation. If anything, it got worse. Lily and Jake seemed to take my complaint as a challenge, finding even more reasons to go out. They'd be waiting by the door when I got home from work, car keys in hand. We're meeting friends at that new restaurant downtown, they'd say, already halfway out the door. The kids have had their snack, thanks, Emily. Weekends became something I dreaded. I'd wake up on Saturday mornings with a knot in my stomach, knowing I'd spend the next 2 days watching Paw Patrol and mediating sibling fights while Lily and Jake lived their best lives. Then came a Wednesday that changed everything. I was at my desk at work, trying to focus on a marketing report despite my exhaustion, when my friend Rachel stopped by my cubicle. Hey, want to do something fun this weekend? She asked, perching on the edge of my desk. A bunch of us are going to the Maple Valley Ski Resort, just a quick weekend getaway. Leave Saturday morning, come back Sunday night. The slopes are supposed to be perfect right now. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of excitement. Friday evening, I was in my tiny bedroom packing my duffel bag, actually feeling happy about an upcoming weekend for once. I had just folded my warmest sweater when Lily appeared in my doorway. What are you doing? She asked, eyeing my half-packed bag. Packing for a ski trip, I replied, rolling up my thermal socks. Going to Maple Valley with some friends from work. Lily's face darkened. You need to cancel. I looked up, startled by her tone. What? Why would I do that? Because, she said, crossing her arms, Jake and I are going to Aunt Linda's 60th birthday party this weekend. Grandma and Grandpa are coming too. You need to stay here with Mia and Noah. I couldn't help but laugh out loud at the sheer audacity of it all. You're joking, right? I said, continuing to fold my ski pants. You can't seriously expect me to cancel my plans because you didn't bother to tell me about yours. Lily's face turned red. She stood there for a moment, sputtering, before turning on her heel and storming out of my room. Grandma! Grandpa! Jake! I could hear her shouting down the hallway. You won't believe what Emily's doing. I kept packing, my hands shaking slightly with anger. The thundering of footsteps announced the arrival of the cavalry. My tiny room suddenly felt even smaller as Lily, Jake, and my grandparents crowded in. Grandma's face was already set in that disappointed expression I knew so well. "What's this about you going skiing?" she demanded, hands on her hips. "Exactly what it sounds like," I replied, zipping up my duffel bag. "I'm going to Maple Valley Resort with my friends for the weekend." "But you can't!" Lily exclaimed. "We have Aunt Linda's party." "No, you have Aunt Linda's party," I corrected her. I stopped what I was doing and turned to face them all. Why am I just hearing about this party now? Why wasn't I included in any of the planning? Grandma hesitated, looking uncomfortable for the first time. Lily jumped in, her voice dripping with condescension. "We all discussed it and decided this would work best for everyone. We go to the party. You watch the kids. It's the most logical arrangement." "You all discussed it," I repeated slowly, "without me, and decided what I would be doing with my weekend. How convenient." "Well, you can't exactly bring small children to a sophisticated party," Lily sniffed. "Aunt Linda specifically said no kids." I shouldered my duffel bag. "Sounds like a you problem. They're your kids, Lily. Figure it out." "What's that supposed to mean?" Jake finally spoke up, frowning. "It means exactly what it sounds like. I have plans. I'm going skiing. Your children are your responsibility, not mine. If you can't bring them to the party, either don't go or hire a babysitter." "A babysitter?" Lily screeched. "With what money?" Again, not my problem. I turned to face them all, suddenly feeling stronger than I had in months, maybe years. "Let me make this perfectly clear. I am going skiing tomorrow. I am done being your free, convenient babysitter. I'm done having my weekends hijacked, my plans ignored, and my life treated like it doesn't matter. If you need childcare, Lily, that's your responsibility as a parent. Stop assuming I'll always be there to pick up your slack." The silence that followed was deafening. They all stared at me as if I'd suddenly started speaking in tongues. Lily's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Grandma looked like she'd been slapped. Grandpa seemed to be trying to disappear into the doorframe, and Jake just stood there with that same confused expression he'd been wearing since his company went bankrupt. The moment of shocked silence didn't last long. Lily's face crumpled, and she burst into theatrical sobs, covering her face with her hands. "How dare you?" Grandma's voice rose. "After everything we've done for you, you're being completely irresponsible." "Selfish," Grandpa chimed in, shaking his head. "Absolutely selfish." I stood there, my duffel bag still over my shoulder, watching my family turn into a Greek chorus of accusations. The words washed over me. Selfish, ungrateful, inconsiderate, immature, each one meant to cut deep to put me back in my place. Then Grandma delivered what she clearly thought would be the knockout blow. "If you walk out that door tomorrow, don't bother coming back to this house." To everyone's surprise, I burst out laughing, not a nervous giggle, but a full, genuine laugh. They all stared at me as if I'd lost my mind. "You know what's funny?" I said, wiping tears from my eyes. "I've been dreaming about moving out of this house for months. I just didn't have the courage to do it. But here you are, giving me the perfect excuse. So thank you." "Get out!" Lily shrieked, her fake sobs forgotten in her rage. "Just get out." Gladly. I pulled out my phone and dialed Rachel's number, putting it on speaker just to make a point. "Hey, R. Sorry to call so late, but is that offer to crash at your place still good? Not just for after skiing, but maybe for a few days?" "Of course." Rachel's cheerful voice filled the room. "I have a spare room. Want to come over now?" "That would be perfect. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I spent the next 15 minutes gathering everything I could fit in my car clothes, important documents, personal items. They watched from various doorways as I made trips up and down the stairs, as if they couldn't quite believe I was really doing it. When I had loaded the last box, I walked into the living room where they had all gathered. "Oh, one more thing," I said, my voice steady. "Since I won't be living here anymore, I won't be paying any of the bills either. You need to figure out how to support yourselves." Grandma's face went pale. "But the utilities, the groceries—" "Not my problem anymore," I said, echoing my words from earlier. I turned and walked out the front door, ignoring Grandma's suddenly panicked calls behind me. The drive to Rachel's place was a blur of adrenaline and relief. My phone kept lighting up with calls and messages, angry texts from Lily, guilt-tripping novels from Grandma, stern disappointments from Grandpa. I ignored them all. The next morning, Rachel and I drove to Maple Valley Resort as planned. For the first time in what felt like forever, I spent a weekend doing exactly what I wanted to do. We skied, we laughed, we had hot chocolate by the fire, and not once did I have to worry about anyone else's children or problems. When we got back Sunday night, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments. With my salary no longer going to support my family, I could actually afford a decent place. By Wednesday, I had found a small but bright one-bedroom apartment in a nice area of town, just a 15-minute drive from my office. My first week in my new apartment was like learning to breathe again. Every morning, I woke up to blessed silencino, screaming children, no blaring television, no guilt-inducing sighs from my grandma. I could make coffee and drink it while it was still hot. I could spend my evenings reading or watching whatever I wanted on Netflix. The messages kept coming, though. I didn't answer the calls, but I couldn't help reading the texts. They followed a predictable pattern. Grandma, how could you abandon your family like this? We need you. Lily, you're so selfish. The kids keep asking where Aunt Emily is. Grandpa, your grandmother is very upset. You need to make this right. I read them all, but responded to none. My silence seemed to drive them even crazier. They weren't used to not having power over me. After a week of this, I was sitting on my new couch when Grandma's number flashed on my phone again. This time, I decided to answer. Emily, finally! Grandma's voice was sharp. I can't believe you ruined our entire weekend. Aunt Linda's party was completely disrupted because of your selfish behavior. Lily and Jake couldn't come because you refused to watch the children. I kept my voice quiet but firm. Just stop, Mom. I'm done with this. I'm done being treated like a servant in my own home. I'm done being expected to sacrifice everything, my time, my money, my life for everyone else's convenience. I'm done being the family ATM and free babysitter while being treated like I don't matter. There was a long pause on the other end. When Grandma spoke again, her voice had changed to that wheedling tone I knew so well. Honey, I know things haven't been perfect, but we're family. We need you. The bills this month were struggling without your help. No, Grandma, I'm done. Maybe someday we can have a relationship again, but it will be on equal terms. No more manipulation, no more guilt trips, no more treating me like a walking wallet or free childcare service. Until then, I need space to live my own life. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I went through my phone and blocked them all: Grandma, Grandpa, Lily, even Jake. I blocked them on social media too. It felt both terrifying and liberating, like cutting anchor lines I hadn't even realized were holding me down. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have my family back in my life. Maybe with enough time and distance, we can build something new, something healthier, with boundaries and respect. Or maybe we won't. Either way, I'm done sacrificing my own happiness and well-being to meet their demands.